Oh, boy, a Monday edition. We got a game to reflect upon. The boys are back in town.
Oh, boy, you're back.
It's a short treat.
Oh,
it's a short treat.
It's like an amuse-bouche. When you go to a fancy white tablecloth and they give you a little amuse-bouche to get you going, that's what we're getting right here with you. But then we're going to start getting into entree season a week from today, that's what we're here for. We're here for the entrees, baby.
I am like the first team offense with Coach Stefanski. Like, put me in bubble wrap. I'll see you at Kansas City. That's how we'll be. I'll see you at Kansas City, kids. Going to be fun. Going to be a fun season. It is good to be back. I was out last week on vacation. We had a preseason game to get to, which will be funny. A lot of fun to get into on that front. I would just like to say, and this is not tongue-in-cheek. This is in all sincerity, that I think the job that you did as a sideline reporter was extraordinary, and I mean this sincerely.
Thank you.
I watched it last night on DVR. And got a look at the game, and because we were in flight stuff on Saturday, so got to take a look at it. And I mean this sincerely. You'd ask me, well, give me your feedback, and you were asking me before, like, I got thoughts, but I wanted to save it for the air because I wanted everyone to hear it. What you did as a sideline guy on television is what the job is supposed to be. You provided context to people that we didn't have context for. You provided storylines for people and created interest in people that other than people like us who are doing this and in the grind that our general fans wouldn't know. You had an encyclopedic knowledge of the roster, which we know about. We talk about on the show all the time. That is as good as I've ever seen sideline work. I mean that sincerely. It was stunning how good you were, buddy. And I thought your ability to create really cool storylines I missed last week. I was out. And so your ability to tie in the storylines to the game and the depth chart was absolutely sensational. It was awesome. It was really, really cool. And I can't wait to see the next couple of games with you, my friend. But I thought you absolutely crushed it. I really do.
Thanks, man. You're gonna make me cry. I got a little goosebumps from that. That was very kind of you to say because I know awesome. You're a huge B, and to hear that from you, it means a lot. Look, awesome. I had a blast. Okay, I had a blast doing it, and I'm gonna make sure that I could do all the research. But I got to be honest. I couldn't do what I did on that sideline, obviously, without Tom and Joe and the producers and the generosity that they had to let me be involved as much as I was. But I couldn't do it without our coaching staff and our players and the relationships that I've been lucky enough to be able to build with them to get stuff like the fact that, Coach O'Shea showed a Davion Davis highlight to the wide receiver room.
Right.
And then he goes and makes a highlight play in the game. I mean, I didn't think I was ever going to drop a Davion Davis nugget. But there it was, and Jarvis and I were then talking about it after that, and then Jarvis was telling me the story. Coach, they showed us this catch. I still can't believe this just happened, and so to be lucky enough to have been here long enough, and these coaches, and it's just an unbelievably generous staff and the team, and I feel very lucky to be working with those guys. But I had so much fun. It was, and last year. Not being on the sidelines, even at the games I was at, I wasn't on the sideline. I knew I missed it, but I didn't even realize how much I missed it until I was back there. And just the little moments you get to have on the sideline with the coaches, the players coming out of the tunnel or just talking. I missed it so much. And to see the fans, and Browns fans were everywhere. They are, I say, the best fans in all of They were all over that stadium. All over that stadium.
I was going to say, for all the Duval stuff, it doesn't seem like it's really taken off there.
No, there were Browns fans everywhere in that stadium.
Geez.
It wasn't
awesome.
Full
either, was it?
No, it was not full. For the first Trevor Lawrence debut?
So the Trevor Lawrence debut, he starts. Yeah. The Lawrence debut, he starts. Urban Meyer's first game as coach. Tebow, for God knows why, is still on that roster. And for all of those reasons, they don't sell it out. And considering that from what it looked like on television, I'm curious what you guys thought because you were there, looked like we represented a decent chunk were Browns fans. I mean, that would be a little alarming to me if I was the Khan family. That'd be a little alarming.
And Gibby, I don't know what you thought, but I would put it at, and I think I'm trying not to exaggerate. I thought it felt to me like 40% were Browns fans, which
That's what it looked like.
A stunning number. And close to the field,
yes,
it was more Browns fans than Jags fans, close to the field, without question. I mean, and it was awesome. And, I think what made it so fun, not only getting obviously to be a part of the broadcast, but was just watching a completely professional operation.
Yeah.
Our second team was professional. Our third team was professional. The Jags played their starters a quarter and a half on both sides of the ball. They were all out there.
Well, Urban said afterwards he would have played him longer. He wanted to leave him in. It's going to be a hell of an adjustment for him. Could be a rough year.
I just
for the Buckeye legend.
You've talked about it. He didn't get it. I don't think he got what he was getting into.
No, I texted this with a buddy of mine over the weekend, who I may or may not do another show with, and I said I'm convinced that he's never seen an NFL preseason game in the last 25, 30 years, as long as he's been coaching. And that's a compliment to him and the job he did in college, because he was so myopic in his view and so tunnel-visioned in his view that he didn't even veer outside it for anything. He was so bunkered. Yeah. Like, I don't know that he's ever even seen a preseason game. I don't even know if he could wrap his head around what was expected or what he needed to get out of it. And his post-game press conference reflected that. I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. You've seen the comments from Joe Schobert today in Pittsburgh about that deal, about how he was meeting with defensive coaches, and they had no clue, and then the next thing you knew, he was traded. And he was like, what's going on? And then they asked Urban about it post-game, and he said, well, that's Trent's deal. I'm going, what is happening down there? It was crazy.
And for a sixth-round pick? That was just a stunning trade in every facet. And real quickly, Joe was a great guy here. Yeah. They just gave him away, basically, and are eating some salary to do it, which is a stunning thing in my mind. But it also raises a question, what's the status of Devin Bush in Pittsburgh? He must not be where they thought he was going to be coming back from that ACL, because the report this morning was Schobert's calling plays for this defense. Yeah. Yeah, well, he commented and said that he was running with the ones with Devin Bush, that they were kind of running with the ones. So, I don't know. I mean, it was alarming and just strange, and it all kind of tied in. From our perspective of things. You use the word professional. That's the way that I felt watching it. And I think the best example of it is our second-team offensive line, the way that it played. Yeah. And in such cohesion. And I looked at it and I thought, boy, are we sure that this offensive line right here wouldn't start for a few teams in the league? I feel like maybe it would. Yeah. I mean, and that's what's fascinating about it. And you have guys, James Hudson had the one pre-snap penalty. Yeah. That was it in the first half. That was it. Yeah. You had guys knowing assignment, alignment, technique, exactly what Kevin Stefanski wanted. You talk about that line left to right. You had James Hudson at the left tackle. You had Michael Dunn at left guard. At center, you had Nick Harris. Right tackle was Hubbard. And in your right guard, you had Blake Hansen there. A guy named Blake. I mean, these guys had played in the playoffs a year ago. They've worked together, and I could tell you, talking to Coach Callahan before the game, he said there is a serious lack of depth on the offensive line around the National Football League. Not here. And he said, no. We are so lucky. He even went on, he goes, look, we have 6 guards here that deserve to be on NFL rosters. And frankly, he said, I think all 6 could be starting in this league. And so that's including Dunn and Hance, and behind that, Colby Gossett and Drew Forbes. That's what it looked like. I mean, our pass protection. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, it was stunning how organized they were, how on the same page they were. I guess to me, when and we'll look, there were things that flash. We'll get to JOK, and we'll get to all of that. But to me, when I think of what has happened in this organization in the last couple of years, I think that offensive line situation is kind of a microcosm of it. How complete we are, how comprehensive we are, how professional we are. Yep. The fact that Stefanski got Callahan, and the fact that he's our offensive line coach. You mentioned Hudson, who got a personal, offensive line class, like offensive line fantasy camp with Bill Callahan for a month, and you think of the value that was. You think about what we had to do last year with Bitonio out, and okay, who's next? Go play. Let's go win a playoff game at Pittsburgh. It was
that to me is kind of a microcosm of who we are. That depth and how professional that second group was. You're right. Jacksonville played there once for a quarter and a half.
Yeah.
To no effect.
To no effect. Josh Allen's a darn good player. Miles Jack is a very good player. They got some nice guys in the secondary. You didn't notice any of them.
Nothing.
You wouldn't have known that they played there, and you would have known we weren't playing our starters. And apparently on the Jacksonville broadcast, they didn't know we weren't playing our starting offensive line. They were saying how Dodd's the best offensive line in football. And that was our two. Those were the twos.
No, it was at some point I would bounce back and forth between our broadcast on Channel 5 here locally and then NFL Network, and because they were running the Jacksonville broadcast. So you got kind of both views, and it's that happens anyway, because I don't know how much of our audience is aware of this, but I'm sure much of it is. In the preseason, local television production crews put on the games.
That's right.
And so you get a very localized view of it, certainly. And so it was really apparent when you flip back and forth, like how, and Bucky was trying to spin it. I mean, it was tough. And you're right. I don't think they were aware that it was our twos. And you wouldn't have been aware by the way they played, certainly.
No, it was just, Coach Stefanski told us, I want to see two things. He said the game's about opportunity, and we'll talk about a lot of guys who seize that opportunity in a major, major way. And then it's about operation. And from an operational standpoint, you couldn't be happier with how this went. It just looked so professional. And I will reuse that word many times. It was just professional. You've got, and not only that, I got a chance to talk with a couple of the guys who got to call plays. Drew Petzing, our tight end coach, got to call that 20-play, 89-yard,
that was awesome,
10-minute drive culminating in the Ryan Switzer touchdown from Kyle Lauletta, who had a heck of a game, Kyle Lauletta.
Boy, he was accurate, wasn't he?
Jeff Howard got to call for the first time in the NFL the defense at the end of the game in the 2-minute drill, which that flag on first of all, it wasn't pass interference. Robert Jackson wasn't close to the guy. So, well, you're an official in the fourth quarter of the first preseason game. Aren't you ready to, skedaddle? That was a game over.
Urban wasn't.
No, Urban was calling all these timeouts. That's always fun when things are happening. People are like, why are we doing? What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing here, buddy? Let's move on. But it was just so professional. And I think the fact that you didn't even know at times watching at home, that these were our third string guys. That a guy like Davion Davis, who got a chance here because he was on a practice squad with Stefanski in Minnesota back in 2019, comes in and has a great game. All these, there was no drop off. That's what was so stunning to me. The guys come in and you don't even know who's calling the plays because you don't even notice that it's any different because the operation is the same.
Well, that's the egoless part of Kevin Stefanski.
Incredible.
I mean, the fact that he's trying to get his guys to elevate them so that they have growth in addition to him and his team. It's, you have to be so full of self-confidence, but also be egoless, which is an almost impossible, combination. And somehow he does it. It was fun. It was a fun game. It was awesome to see. Professional is the word of the day, and I think it's an appropriate one. Injury updates from today. The Stephen Carlson one certainly sounds the alarms, my friend.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, the early reports are that this will be a season-ending injury for Steve Carlson. That has not been confirmed. That would leave the Browns with 5 tight ends currently here in the building, and of the 2, behind the top 3, which are the same top 3 in Austin Hooper, David Njoku, and Harrison Bryant. Jordan Franks, Connor Davis, the other 2, and they like Jordan Franks in this building. And so I think if that's the way that it would have to go, there is some comfort with Jordan Franks and what he's seen. Connor Davis has great size at 6'8", but this is, unfortunate that, Stiff Arm Steve, who's a guy that just knows his role, does his job, plays at a high level. It's a bummer. I think that people would be pretty bummed. And on the other side with Mac Wilson, good news there is he Instagrammed and tweeted out he's fine. He's looking like, it's a very short-term injury, nothing serious. Won't keep him out long at all.
You and I were at mini camp in June, and it was within 15 minutes, and we were you could pull up the audio, and we were describing what we saw, and we were paying attention to 28 because he jumped off the practice field because he had another gear. He had, I think the word we used was twitchy. He's got a little bounce to him, explosiveness. There's something to him that's just different, that even separates amongst the greatest athletes in the world. It's just different. And this is not to say that he's got the whole world figured out, and he doesn't. But what it is to say is that from an athletic profile standpoint, he is elite. And you saw that, and it was on full display on Saturday night. It was the headline grabber. It ought to be the headline grabber because he was a heat-seeking missile for much of the game. And he's going to play a lot, and he's going to have a shot at making big plays. And he does some things that a lot of people can't do because you can't teach the gifts that he has.
No, you can't. And if there was one, if you said you could only take one thing away and forget from it, it's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. The guy goes out there, gets a sack on his first play. He leads the team in tackles. He almost blocks a punt. And then the play that I think a lot of people, I don't know if people really even comprehended what happened, but I was talking with Joe Woods after the game. The play, he ends up man-to-man in the slot on a receiver, on a wide receiver. And there was, could he have bounced out to the running back and the corner should have come in the slot? Yes, but the corner went out with the running back, and so he matched up. That was the call. He plays man-to-man on a receiver from the slot and gives up a catch for no yards because he mirrors the route and then is right there, boom, tackle. Joe Woods couldn't believe that. I mean, he can because he knows how athletic JOK is, but this guy's in his first preseason game. He had missed the 10 days, and he's out there playing man-to-man coverage on a wide receiver in the slot in the National Football League. He is special, and the funny thing is I interviewed him post-game. For the post-game show on News 5. I said, wow. I said, you had a lot of fun. This is not part of the interview prior to that. I said, you looked great out there. He goes, man, I was terrible. He goes, I missed. Really? He's like, my eyes were bad. I was in the wrong spot 100 different times. He goes, well, so much to clean up. And I said, well, that's what this is for. I said, but the good was pretty darn good and pretty noticeable.
Pretty good,
buddy. So if we're going only up from here, if you weren't happy with that performance, a lot of us are going to be very happy with what you put out there on the football field. He's an incredible guy, incredible kid. And, he was still upset on that touchdown at the end of the game that he didn't get wide enough to help undercut the slant route that was coming behind him that ended the touchdown.
Yeah.
And that's what was eating him. And that tells you the kind of competitor he is and how the coaches have said all along, he doesn't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
This is awesome debut. And when you're on the field, I haven't been that close in a long time.
Sure, yeah.
The speed jumps out at you, but his is different than it feels like everybody else out there. He feels different.
Well, I mean, those were the first observations watching him back at mandatory minicamp was that amongst incredibly twitchy athletes, he rises above that. So that played out. It was good to see Donovan Peoples-Jones do what he did. We're in really good shape, guys. I mean, that's kind of the takeaway. And these preseason games are a lot of fun. We hope nobody gets hurt. But this is a team that just let's go to bubble wrap and we'll see in Kansas City. That's really what it's about. Is this is a team that can win a Super Bowl, and the depth I think was on display, and just how comprehensive our depth is, how deep we are across many, many positions, and the talent is pretty extreme, and it was fun to see on Saturday.
We played an entire football game with safeties 5, 6, and 7 out of 7 as the only 3 that were up, and Javonte Moffitt was everywhere. LeCount gets an interception, should have had 2.
LeCount was nice. I like him. He was flying around, man.
The guy
Lots to like.
Was first-team All-SEC.
Right. Yeah, right.
That's not just
he
handed out, and he's a good player.
No,
Benton almost had an interception. I mean, and those 3 guys, again, open on your depth chart at 5, 6, 7. I don't know exactly what the order is, but you didn't have John Johnson. You didn't have Ronnie. You didn't have Grant Delpit, and you didn't have Sheldrick Redwine. And you had no breakdowns on the back end. You had no blown coverages. The Jags starters blew more coverages.
Yeah. Yep. No. It was pretty good. Also, one quick thing I did see, we know that Curtis Weaver transformed his body, I did not know that he apparently went to Pamplona and did some bullfighting too, because he olayed Tebow. Tebow just missed him completely, just whiffed him on the block. Weaver just. I didn't realize that he had trained as a bullfighter as well.
He was quite nimble, and Tebow almost kind of went down like he was trying to give him the
just
horns.
kind of fell.
It was, and that's gone pretty viral. Obviously, I mean, we were asked in the interview I did leading up to the game with the Jags, ESPN NFL Nation reporter didn't ask a question about Tebow. Then we were asked Gibbe on the coach show, on the Kevin Stefanski show, what's the percentage chance that Tebow makes the roster? I said 0, and I feel nothing that I've seen would change my opinion of that in any way, shape, or form. But they're selling his jerseys. You walk around the stadium, they're in the team shops, and they were on people's bodies. So if nothing else, they've generated a nice bit of revenue, gotten a little interest out of it. But he's in incredible shape. Seeing him in the warm-ups, you're like, this guy is just chiseled. But listen,
and he's a great human. Like he is what he professes to be as a human being. That does not mean that he has any business being on an NFL roster. And I honestly think Urban probably needs to cut him Tuesday just to kind of keep the room, because it was pretty absurd. As any 33-year-old who'd only played quarterback their entire life would be playing tight end.
In the
NFL. Spent the last 4 years playing minor league baseball. Like, of course it would be awful. And of course it would be awkward. And it was. It was all of those things. And those are your OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider of your Cleveland Browns. So all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. How about this? You got some glasses on the desk there, do you, Coach?
We sure do. They're the streamers. Look at these. The 1946 collection from Buffalo Wild Wings. Oh, yeah. We've got them.
Those
gorgeous.
are beautiful. Yeah, the Browns bundle is back at Buffalo Wild Wings for the 2021 season, participating Ohio Buffalo Wild Wings locations. During the 2021 season, with the purchase of a Browns bundle, fans can get a limited edition collectible Cleveland Browns glass. The $14.99 Browns bundle includes a 6-piece wing, boneless or traditional, fries, and a Browns glass. This season's collection includes the Browns' 75th anniversary, 3 unique designs, the 75th anniversary logo, throwback brownie, and the 1946 patch logo. You can pick them up at your Ohio Buffalo Wild Wings, the participating locations. Lots to get to, including hearing from Coach Stefanski. Take a look at some of the things that happened in the game, as we will dig much, much deeper into all of that. Lots of fun. It is good to be back. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And when you're dedicated to bringing the best value to your customers, you got to do a little work. When it comes to mattresses, Northeast Factory Direct really outdid themselves. They searched the entire country to find the best factory, the best warranties. Now they have the latest technology in mattresses for a fraction of the cost. Northeast Factory Direct has you covered. King, queen, full, twin, bunk bed, mattresses, box springs, and more. And right now, stop in and take your photo with Flat Alex for a chance to win $500 in gift cards. Just take Northeast Factory Direct on Facebook or Instagram to be entered into the drawing. You can check them out. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, or Freeway Drive in Macedonia. Or you can shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. On Sunday, our head coach, Kevin Stefanski, met with the media following the preseason win on Sunday night. Here are those comments.
Injury front.
You guys are down.
Waiting test results on those guys we talked about, so I don't have an update there. But just looking at the tape, and like we talked about, I really was proud of the guys and how they competed. I really thought the guys gave great effort out there. And then we had great meetings this morning and pointing out all those things that we have to clean up. And it's a bunch of little things that together they can become a big thing. So making sure that the emphasis is on cleaning up some mistakes, reminded the guys that we are very much in training camp mode. So we got a lot of work left to do. With that, I will take any questions.
Hey, Coach, I know you mentioned, working on some stuff and getting better, but it seemed like it was a pretty clean game last night. Not too many penalties. Didn't seem like too many guys weren't lining up in the right place. So I know there's always work to be done, but would you say last night was a pretty clean game?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the operation was good. I like the communication with the coaches. I thought the communication between the coaches and the players was really good. I thought on the sideline, the guys were doing a nice job of making corrections and then taking it out to the field. So they were on point. Definitely things we can clean up. The pre-snap penalties are the ones that are really inexcusable.
Specifically on Mac, when did that happen, Kevin? What happened to him?
Yeah, it was early in the game, Tom. One of the first couple plays and just ding that shoulder. Honestly, not exactly sure which play it was. I can vividly remember him grabbing it, but we'll see how he comes out of it after the MRI.
Yeah, Coach, just wondering, this is kind of a big week, obviously, with the Giants coming in for the joint practices. Do you expect some of your injured guys back, maybe some of the hamstring guys? And if so, which ones will be back?
Yeah, Mary Kay, a lot of those guys are really close, and I'm optimistic about it. But I want to get to Tuesday to see exactly where everybody is. Use these today and tomorrow as part of that rehab. But I'm optimistic that we'll get some guys back.
Hey, Kevin, one of the rookies we didn't ask you about yesterday was James Hudson. He got to play left tackle a lot. So what did you see out of him?
Yeah, Dan, I thought James did a nice job for his first night out there. It wasn't perfect. It was pointed out to him that it wasn't perfect. And, I think Coach does a great job of being very clear with those guys of what he expects in terms of technique. I thought James had some nice moments, some moments I know that he wants back. He played both sides of the line for us. So he's somebody that we're going to continue to grow. And the kid, he wants to work. He really wants to be coached. So that's always a good thing.
Hey, Kevin, after getting to look at it, what was your favorite thing Jeremiah Usikoromo did, and what do you need him to work on? After the game, he was very much in the camp of, hey, I made a lot of mistakes, even though I popped. So what's your assessment?
Yeah, Nate, I think if you watched it live and then even watching it on tape, he did make splash plays. He made good tackles along the sideline, made a nice play on that screen. He needs to clean up his eye progression, and he understands that, and the coaches are working very hard. You need to really play fast in this league. It's when you're not thinking. And I think he's getting there with a lot of work. I think he will get there. But I think overall he understands that there's plenty of work to be done.
Demetric Felton, is the plan to use him at running back in the next preseason game?
We've had some early discussions on that, Scott, and I think we'll see how the week goes. He certainly, we know he can do both. And at some point, yes, we want to get a look at him at that position. But I'm not ready to say that it will be this game.
Hey, Coach, what did you think of Greg Newsome after you went back and you watched the film? He gave up that one big play. It looked like he just got it a little bit turned around and out of position. But just overall, what did you like from Greg?
Yeah, he did a nice job. That one big play was a pretty good play, a pretty good throw, pretty good catch. And, it's hard to cover for a guy for that long. So we really, that's where rush and coverage tie together. But all in all, I think Greg had a nice night. It was the first time out there for him. So a lot of these guys, you got to remember the butterflies, the anxiety of that first time under the lights. Now they get that out of the way and hopefully can play a little bit freer in the next one.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Davis. The touchdown catch was obviously, pretty spectacular there, but just
30.
A guy on July 31st and a couple weeks later, he's able to come out in a preseason game and make that type of an impact.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. You just look at the boundary when he scored and how excited the sideline was. DD's a great kid, works very hard. It's funny, Coach O'Shea recently in one of their wide receiver meetings showed a highlight reel catch that Davion had in college. So when the ball was in the air, I had that going through my mind, and the kid came down with it and made a great play.
You guys are up.
Those fun moments, and of course that was in the broadcast, courtesy of you and Coach Stefanski as well. So that was courtesy of Coach O'Shea, for sharing that. Yeah, which was very good. I thought it was good. You hate to see the injury to stiff arm Steve, who's just a pro, and will be missed for sure.
Yeah.
But by and large, when you look back on that game, you get a lot what you wanted out of it. We talked about the headline grabbers, obviously. One other thing quickly on the rookies, Newsome going against a pro's pro, right? And Marvin Jones went up against a pro's pro, and I thought he was pretty good. And if he gets the pick, it's a highlight grabber. But I thought he played really strong in his first NFL action.
I mean, we've made it a half hour into this program. We haven't mentioned Newsome. We haven't mentioned Felton. We haven't mentioned Donovan Peoples-Jones.
No.
Greg Newsome, if I were to say to you that the coaches were thrilled with Greg Newsome, it would be an understatement. They are very, very, very happy with him, his aptitude, his ability to take it from the film room to the field, where he was, the toughness he showed. Yeah, Marvin Jones is a darn good football player. He scored 9 touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
He is a pro. But they are very happy with him. It was great to see Greedy out there as well, getting some reps. This team, and another guy that they internally were happy with, they thought Keandre Thomas had a nice game. Now, he got a little bit banged up at the end there with a hamstring, and he was right there, just a step. He had the hand in there on that touchdown pass, couldn't get the ball out, but he's another one of those young players that got a lot of opportunity and made a nice impact. But Newsome, you can tell he doesn't look like a rookie, and he's only played 1 game.
No.
And I think to the point you were making earlier about the rookie minicamp and for Hudson to have that 2-on-1 time, Owusu-Koramoah basically had 2-on-1 time once Tony Fields got hurt.
Yep.
I've talked to enough of the coaches and enough of the people here that I think rookie minicamps, as they learn, I think it's going to be a lot more like that than it used to be, where it's like, let's figure out a way to get 11-on-11s in here and do that. No, let's get the guys that we just made a big investment in, and let's give them fantasy camp scenarios with their position coaches, because we have such a great staff, and I think you're seeing the rewards of that.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's true. We noted it with Hudson, back in May and June, and it was something that, kind of matriculated down the roster. It was awfully impressive. I thought Kyle Lauletta was really dang good. I thought he was really strong, really accurate with the ball, decisive. I thought he appointed himself very well in the second half of that game.
I mean, Kyle Lauletta, again, he was in complete command. He was in complete control. And he goes out there, 19 of 27, 212 yards, the 2 touchdowns, took 1 sack, quarterback rating of 118, spread the ball around to so many different guys. I thought he looked very comfortable. I thought he looked very good. And you think about, he had, I think, a little bit of Felton, but he really didn't have DPJ. He had Higgins, I think, maybe for one play or two. And then it was mostly Kyle Lauletta working with Davion Davis, who ended up leading the team with 4 catches for 56 yards. John Kelly out of the backfield, who ended up with 4 for 44. You had Jamarcus Bradley had a nice catch. It was just this whole group of people who worked together. You find Switzer at the goal line for the touchdown in a little traffic. These guys just worked together so well, and I thought it was so fun to see the way that this team was able to operate. And Kyle Lauletta probably helped his stock here and around the NFL, which now makes it look. Last year we had 2 quarterbacks on the 53. Kyle Lauletta, a performance like that, if he puts together another one against the team that drafted him this week, the New York Giants, he's got an opportunity to be tough to hide. If you want to keep him in your program, that might be a difficult decision to say we might need to keep 3 quarterbacks on our roster.
That was the big takeaway I had. You could use the Laletta example as one. There's others you could as well. This is going to be just a very difficult team to make because there's really competent players up and down the roster in depth, and it showed. It showed. There were a lot of guys who shined well on Saturday night, and it's this when we start to do some cut downs. There's some people who are going to get cut who can play,
who are going to get picked up immediately and probably be counted on to play in the places that pick them up. I mean, look, our safety room right now, I don't know how they even navigate that. I have no idea how they navigate it, and we're going to trim down 5 guys by tomorrow. That's the first cut down, 5 more after the preseason game against the Giants, and then you'll get from 80 to 53 that following Tuesday after the game down in Atlanta on Sunday Night Football. But it's going to be hard. I went through and tried to figure out, okay, if I had to do 5 now, where does that look? Where does that come from? And it's tough. But when you have a guy like Richard LeCount, you drafted, balled out that, and you just saw his athleticism. That's the thing. Here's one of the things that I love about our front office is that no stone is unturned. They know how good his tape was, right? He falls due in large part to the accident, the motorbike accident that he had. He doesn't test well, but they went back into the junior year, the year prior in 2019, and his GPS data was in the top 10 percentile, 90th percentile, so top 10 of all defensive backs in college football, period. So he is a plus athlete. Now, the guy was first team All-State as a wide receiver in high school. So I'm not sure his high school wide receiver coach would have been pleased with him dropping that ball on the sideline. But his natural ball skills are evident.
They're there.
And you saw after once he got in his hand, he looked very much like an offensive player, and that jumps out on his tape at Georgia. When he got the ball in his hands, he made a lot of big returns for them. Yeah.
No, he's a player. Real quick, and we're going to hear from JOK and Newsome and others' case as well. I haven't, obviously I was out last week with Delpit. I saw him on the sidelines. Hasn't been available much. What are you feeling on that? Just 9 plays or something like that?
He's played 9 snaps in team drills. That's it. The good news is, and I'll kind of, these aren't necessarily scores, but if you want to pay attention, you can. We're going to get a lot of those guys back. And I think a lot of, for the Delpits and the Ronnie Harrisons and the Schwartzes, MJ Stewart's injury was suffered much more recently, so I'm not sure if he will be back this week. But I think the plan was, let's get these guys back to 100%.
Okay, smart.
And then the target was always, let's get them ready this week. Slow ramp up, Tuesday, Wednesday, we've heard Coach Stefanski say, and get them ready for the joint practices. If Grant and Ronnie can get those reps in those joint practices, I think that goes a long way to them being ready for week 1. Not for Ronnie as much, obviously. We're talking about Grant. Grant needs the reps more than Ronnie. But I think that's kind of the plan all along, was this was the week that they had targeted for the returns, and get them into the joint practices, get them some of those good, actual play environments, again, in controlled situations, and then be able to ramp them up. So optimism abounds as it relates to some of those guys who missed that we were counting on. And I'd say the 3, the biggest ones, like Miles, for example, we're not even talking about him, but Grant, Ronnie, and Schwartz, those are the 3 we want to see. I think that we will see them much, much sooner rather than later.
Very good news on that front. You'll hear from Coach Stefanski and Dimitri Felton, who's a bit of a dude as well. Case Keenum, JOK, Newsome. Lots of good stuff coming your way. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my friends at Raising Cane's. School is in session. Raising Cane's ready to teach your taste buds a lesson. It's time to feed your brain with hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast, and mouth-watering cane sauce from Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is here to help all school year long. Visit canesandcommunity.com to learn more about how Cane's can support your school with fundraisers, sponsorships, and more. Raising Cane's. One love. Certainly love what we saw from our offense, specifically Demetric Felton, the rookie out of UCLA. He has been impressive. Here's Coach Stefanski on him.
Did a nice job.
You're down.
Again, I think he's shown up in practice as well. So, made the big point to the young guys especially. You got to take the practice field to the game field. And I thought a lot of the guys did that. Like I said, never perfect, always things to clean up. But Demetric had a couple.
You're up.
Can you imagine? So he's 6th rounder, right? I'm just taking notes. He's 6th rounder. And the kid from Michigan who wears 11, do we mention him much? What round was he in? The wide receiver. I'm blanking on his name. Right. And he was a 6th rounder? Yep. Okay. So maybe we're good at that. Could be. Yeah, could be.
And yet he went out there, 4 catches on 6 targets, 44 yards, including a 25-yarder over the middle of the field where he had a guy right on his back. And so they knew he could win off the line of scrimmage. And frankly, if there wasn't pressure off the right side, he would have gotten that touchdown because he won his route on that quick slant. But how would he respond in coverage? How would he respond with guys on him making those contested catches that you don't have to make really in practice? And I'll tell you what, he made them, and he looked very, very good. And who better to help develop him as a wide receiver than Chad O'Shea, who I think is one of, again, I say it all the time, and we are so blessed on a staff where we've got Bill Callahan to also have somebody of his quality, and AVP and Stump and Drew Petz. It goes on and on. But to have Chad O'Shea be the one, a guy who worked with and kind of put, let's be honest, it was during his time in New England that the slot receiver position kind of got put on the map. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola. Those are the guys you think of when you think, oh, that true slot guy. It was when Wes Welker went to New England, and that kind of blossomed as a role in the NFL. So who better to help get Demetric Felton ready for that than Chad O'Shea? And I think the early returns are there. We heard he will play some running back at some point this preseason, but look, it seems to me he's going to be a receiver and a special teams guy early in his career. And I think more than early in his career. And that receiver room now is bonkers crowded.
Yeah, it got crowded quick. And his ability to cross-train, though, is going to help him incredibly, to be able to do both positions, to help out in a pinch on either side, to help in the return game. You love what you're getting out of him. We talked about this in the drafting of him, that if ever there were kids – say what you want about Chip Kelly and the experience in the NFL and what that was like, the experiment, rather, in the NFL and what it was like. But at the college level at running back, he asks a lot of receiver qualities of his backs. And I think that benefited Felton a lot coming in here because he's ready for it. He can do a lot of different things, and he certainly is somebody who I think you can count on. It feels like you could count on a role for him even in this team with all the stuff he can do. It seems like getting close to that.
So just 2 things on that. Number one, in 2019, he caught 55 passes at UCLA, which is the school's record for the most receptions in a season by a running back. And so, he's had plenty of experience for it. I think you're right. I think he may have carved out a role even this year. So let's just talk receivers for a second.
Sure.
OBJ, Jarvis.
Yep.
Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood Higgins, Anthony Schwartz, Demetric Felton. That's 6 right there. So you talk about, and here's another thing that you have to factor in, right, is that not only is Steve Carlson, was he a tight end for you and a guy who you could count on to block and know his assignments, he was a core special teams guy. And so now does that make, maybe do you go 3 tight ends and 7 receivers so that you can get Kadero Hodge, who's also a core special teams guy on your team?
Right.
Do you need a 4th tight end in this offense, which you may say, yeah, I actually do. So could that be Jordan Franks, Connor Davis, or are we actually looking elsewhere to bring a tight end into our system? But making it in the receiver room behind those top 6 guys that I mentioned, it's not impossible. They could end up carrying, we don't know, but from a number standpoint, it's tough. That's going to be tough for Kadero, for JoJo Natson, for Switzer, for Davion Davis, for Jamarcus Bradley. There's no weakling. And Hollywood, if he showed anything in that game, I know he only had the 1 catch, but when you watch him on tape, he just knows how to get open against NFL corners. He played against their first-team corners, and he got open. There was one time when I was doing a sideline hit, and they came to the right, and it was Hollywood and Felton. I go, I have a pretty good feeling the ball's going to come this way, and sure enough, right to Hollywood Higgins, because you just know he knows how to get open in that situation. Why wouldn't you throw him the ball?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, it is. And I think you saw that even a little bit, the frustration with JoJo Natson, who had the long return and, gets called back, and he's like, man, every opportunity I got to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And certainly that return will be remembered, but that's kind of how tight it is at the back end of that room now with what is happening so far in camp. Certainly the headline of the game against Jacksonville on Saturday was JOK and his debut.
Mm-hmm.
He was asked after the game if he was playing at full speed. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean,
you're down.
I was, but in certain instances, I still was not doing as well as I wanted to. So it's a balance to it, but I just couldn't truly get that balance tonight. But it comes with experience, I know.
Yep. And I'm going to back that up with the comments from Greg Newsome, fellow rookie, on JOK. Here's Newsome.
Man, he's a stud, man. He's a beast. I'm glad we got him on our team for sure. You've seen what he did today, and obviously he came off the COVID list, so he's really fresh into things. He's really not even close to where he's going to be at all either. So he played a great first game.
Yep. How lucky are we that we have those 2 guys in the first and second round? And don't you get the feeling, and you've been around them a lot more than I have, certainly, you get the feeling that those 2 guys are going to be cornerstone guys, that they are going to be guys, bedrock guys that you build upon their shoulders, whatever happens here the next decade.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And to feel, you've got to feel so fortunate. I always joke with Paul DePodesta that you guys need to update your simulations because you ran through 1 million for this draft, and none of them had Newsome JOK. And you feel like we defied the odds and defied what should be allowed getting both of these guys in the first round, but you're not going to hear me complain about it.
No.
If Greg Newsome weren't on our team at all, and at pick 26 we had picked JOK, and that was the debut of our first rounder, we would be just as ecstatic as we are right now, because I think all of our fans feel like he is a first rounder anyway. And so to have both of those guys is pretty wild. And then you got LeCount flashing, and you got Demetric Felton flashing.
Yep.
Hudson played well out there. Togiai. It's just.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Starters didn't play, Coach. Remember that? Starters didn't play.
Not 1 second.
Let's hand out some game balls on a victory Monday. Who gets your offensive game ball?
I mean, it's got to be Kyle Lauletta. For a guy that had a lot to prove, I'm sure, not only to himself, to this organization, to the NFL, to be able to go out there and put that on tape the way that he did, the command that he had, the poise that he had in the pocket. I thought he navigated the pocket well, stepped up at times. I thought he hung in there and took some shots on some of the passes that he stayed in to deliver the football. I thought Kyle Lauletta was your offensive MVP. And we haven't even talked about another guy who had, I thought, a great game as well, Johnny Stanton, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in hour number 2. But Lauletta would be the answer for me.
I think he is the correct answer, and that's who I would give it to as well. If the other one that I would say that was certainly an attention getter, and especially considering going against their ones, is Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I thought what Coach said afterwards is that's what he did last year. Someone asked him, like, what do you think about Donovan Peoples? He's like, well, he did that last year. He's been ready to go from Jump Street.
Yep.
And it's almost it's just crazy what happened at Michigan and whatever happened to make him a 6th-round pick, because it doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense when he fell. You and I were doing the draft that day, and we're going in I think the 4th round. We're like, can we pick him now? Pick him now. He went all the way to the 6th. The talent is what it is, but then his mentality, professionalism, to do the offseason that he did, to come in the way that he looks now, he looked like the best receiver on the field, period. That's what he looked like to me.
This, I think, is the highest compliment that can possibly be given to Donovan Peoples-Jones. Again, talking with Chad O'Shea. And Anthony Schwartz asked him, what do I have to do? And he goes, be like Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's the example. See how he learns every position. You see how he is mentally prepared so that if he ever gets an opportunity, he can capitalize on it. You see how he's continuing to work on his craft every day. Be like Donovan Peoples-Jones. When your 6th-round pick from a year ago is the example that you want your rookie this year, 3rd-round pick, to be like, that says we got really, really lucky, and this kid is a special person in the meeting room, off of the field, and then on the field, he's showing what his special talents can bring about as well. And I thought if Case had maybe put a little more air on the one that would look like it was supposed to be a back shoulder, he was set up to make, and that's what he's good. Contested catch, he's great, but he also knows how to get open.
He's a great hand fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Denzel's good at this on the defensive side. He's really good at this for a second-year guy of creating that last second of separation with his hands. He's very, very good at it. Your defensive game ball.
I mean, the buzz is all JOK, right? JOK would be.
That's fine. That's who it is.
That's who it is. The next guy, though, is Richard LeCount. Richard LeCount was our highest graded Pro Football Focus. They grade the preseason games too. He was our highest graded player on the team. Got a sack, was able to rush the quarterback, got an interception, should have had a second. He would be the first to tell you. I mean, he didn't look out of place at all. He told Gribbs after the game, I love this. He goes, I never lose in Jacksonville. When he was at Georgia, they would go there.
Florida.
And they would.
Cocktail party.
Yep. Beat him there. He said, I never lose in Jacksonville. It's great. And he's a guy.
It's a great line.
He's a kid with a lot of confidence.
Wasn't he a 5-star kid out of high school? Played at Georgia, all SEC.
Right?
Yeah, all SEC. Yeah, he's no. That's real. Those kids come with a little bit of drip to them, and he's got it. And it's an incredible amount of security if he can play to his potential, and he got off to a great start. I think those are the two guys. Those are the two guys. You start, and there were a lot of guys to be impressed with. Newsome was great, but those are the two guys that caught the attention. And with all the injuries at safety, the LeCount one is a bit of a headliner that he had the start that he had. One special teams player of the week, game ball rather.
Honestly, I thought the whole team, it would have loved to see it get to JoJo Natson if he was able to get that one without the penalty, which sounded a little bit questionable. But, I thought the kickers to just go out there and make every kick that was put in front of them, that's what you want to see. And that's what they did. They both operated effectively, efficiently. So I would give it to both McLaughlin and Parkey. And, by the way, Cody Parkey's 48-yard field goal, longer than any kick that he made last year. His longest was 46. And I had a nice little kiss. It was just a brush, really. It was more of a brush than a kiss. It really didn't clang. It was just a little kiss.
I thought I'll give it to Stefanski for his answer to Tony Grossi's question about the ball hitting the upright and saying it still do you lose a point for that? And Stefanski said no, it still counts for 3, doesn't it? Which I thought was
amazing.
Great line out of him on that front. Injuries during childbirth require experienced counsel. Call the lawyers at Elk & Elk for clear answers to what happened during your child's birth. Elk & Elk, proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO today. So what is the game plan for this week? We know we are losing 5 players on Tuesday as we get set for the home debut this weekend. The Giants here as well this week. So lots to get to. Second hour up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Second hour here, Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop for my friends at EOX Vantage. EOX Vantage connects core systems that don't talk. From reporting and analytics to insight and decision-making, gaining more complete, real-time picture of your business. You can eliminate those Excel nightmares from business processes. You can visualize your important data in one place. You can gain real-time insight to make data-driven decisions on performance through role-based visualization dashboards. With EOX Vantage, you can benefit with lower overall costs, better alignment between technology and specific business needs, scalability, ease of deployment, and management. EOX Vantage makes your data work smarter. It's going to move your business forward, guys. You're all about growth. Your software should be too. With EOX Vantage, your company will scale effortlessly. It's a local presence, global footprint, trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. And a 2021 Cleveland Plain Dealer Top Workplace winner. Head to www.eoxvantage.com for more on that front. All right, we have this week of practices. The New York Football Giants coming to town as well. Here is Coach Stefanski on the game plan for the week.
Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday will be lighter days, Dan. And, you know, as we get the Giants in here, those practices will be ramped up more in terms of reps. So we got a 4-day block, so we'll be smart in the first two.
You're up. Let me ask you this, Z. How do you anticipate Coach handling this week? Will he treat it as the second preseason game, or do you think it more likely that he treats this as the quote-unquote dress rehearsal, which used to be the third, which isn't even much of a dress rehearsal anymore?
Are you talking about the game itself on Sunday or the
game
week?
Itself on Sunday? Let's handle that first.
I don't know that the game itself is going to be any different than what we saw in Jacksonville. Yeah. I really don't. I think that the joint practices, that's going to be the work for the starters this week. That's where you can get ones-on-ones, controlled environment. You know, I think that's where they're going to get the majority of their work will be this week in the joint practices. I don't know that we're going to see the starters. These truly are not scores. This is just, I think the risk-reward calculation, if you've just gotten 2 good days of real work and getting red zone and goal line and 2-minute drill and 4-minute offense and first downs, third downs, all that work you're going to get against another football team, do you need to see it in a game? No. I don't know. I don't know that you do. He said that from an operations standpoint, the dress rehearsal is going to be Atlanta. I don't know if that means the guys are going to play. And now that you've got, it's very similar to what it used to be. You'd play in the third game and have 2 weeks until the season started. Now you play the third game and have 2 weeks because there is no fourth. If we're going to see people, I think it'll be Atlanta, but it wouldn't shock me at all if we don't see anybody, because what's the risk-reward calculation is the reward is, okay, you get some reps for guys. And, you know, I think guys, it's important. Like Grant Delpit, I think, will play in the preseason, even though he's quote-unquote a starter. Yeah. But I don't know about, you know, the Bakers and the Nick Chubbs and the Kareems and the Myles Garretts and the Jadeveon Clowneys. I don't know if those guys need that. Because, okay, you get into a little rhythm, you're still off for 2 weeks. Like, how much carryover is there from the success, whereas the risk, significant?
Well, and that's why, you know, I think, and we went from 4 to 3. I mean, how quickly do we go to 2 and go to 18 games? I mean, I would think that could happen as soon as next year, or the year after. As soon as they can do it, they need to, because these are not. I mean, and we'll go around the league here in a few minutes, and there was a lot of fun stuff that happened in the first week of the preseason, but these are not from a, you know, come buy a ticket standpoint. These are not that. And this has changed a lot. I mean, we saw McVay saying you're not seeing a snap of Matthew Stafford in the starters with the Rams. You saw this Justin Herbert even in his second year. You know, he's not taking a snap in the preseason. We're not doing it. So that is going to start to happen around the league, where unless you have a rookie quarterback, although Tom Brady threw 2 passes Saturday for Tampa Bay against Cincinnati. He threw 2 passes.
Yeah, it's different. I think it's going to be different everywhere, and it's going to be based on what you see. And I think the benefit of having this joint practice, as I said, is you're going to hit every situation you would hope to hit in a game. Now, if you want to practice, like, let's practice an opening drive, you know, maybe we see that at some point, either this week or next week. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if we didn't see anything from them, because I think the quality of the joint practices, that's where they're going to look to get it. I still think, and I could be wrong, but I still think if we are going to see them for, say, an opening drive scenario, something like that, I do think it would be that third preseason game.
Yeah. and just see what it looks like, and then that'll be it. These practices are going to be fun, though. You're going to get a look, and you personally will get a look at what this looks like when you get a little ones. That's going to be your most realistic look, I think, till Kansas City, till the opener.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be the highest quality amount of work and reps, and those practices are not open to the public. We will have Browns Live going those days to try to bring you as much coverage as we possibly can of those, so definitely tune into that. But, yeah, that's going to be – I think you would get more one-on-one reps in these joint practices, and I do think they tell a lot. I know that things in 2019, we went to Indy, and we had a very nice set of joint practices, and it was not a forebearer, but we started the season early. Things kind of unraveled after our start. But
that team, though, in 2019, just to push back real briefly on that, and I agree with your overall point, that team at its best was pretty good.
Yeah, it was very good. We whooped the Ravens.
It was a very good team.
They didn't lose another game.
Yeah, right. We did that well, and that team of all, that team for us, we did not take when things we didn't take problems well. We didn't deal well with adversity with that team.
Right.
But when we were a very good front running team in 2019. When things were going well, we looked like we could beat anybody. And so that's kind of the way that played out in Indy. By the way, they were also, who knew, isn't that when Luck announced his retirement?
Yeah.
Or didn't announce it, it got leaked in the middle of that game on that Saturday? Like we're sitting there watching the game, all of a sudden Andrew Luck's on the big screen and he's on the field, he had to walk off.
Yeah.
Because it leaked out that he was retiring?
That's right.
There's a lot going on that week, Coach.
There was a lot going on that week. But to your point, no. But you knew that team had potential. Just as in 2015 when we went to Buffalo, you knew that team was, unless the Bills were winning the Super Bowl, and they were not expected to at that point. This was a long time ago. You knew we were not where we thought we would be. And so I'm excited for I think these joint practices are more important to the coaching staff, the players, than any preseason game would be.
Agree.
This is about the work. This is about getting good looks, getting the situations. Because that's the other thing. In a preseason game, other than guaranteeing to get yourself an opening drive scenario, you're not guaranteed anything. You're not guaranteed a red zone trip. You're not guaranteed a 2-minute drill. Now, sometimes it works out, but that's just kind of the way that it is.
Those are going to be huge practices at the linebacker room. Those are going to be huge practices at defensive tackle. Those are going to be huge practices at corner and safety, where you have, you've had some injuries, you have some depth chart questions, really linebacker in the middle of the defensive line in terms of, that's the biggest window in terms of you could be starting or you could be cut. I don't think that's quite the case anymore at linebacker, but you get the point. So I think those are huge practices for those guys.
Yes.
When the Giants come in here this week. Those are going to be really monster practices for those. And I'm guessing they're circled for the veterans, and then they'll get an opportunity, to kind of have a similar feel for the game by the time you play it on Sunday. And we have a cut-down day on Tuesday, so we'll lose 5 players off this roster tomorrow.
Yeah, and some teams are already making those cuts early on, so we'll see what ultimately, if that ends up happening here. If we get any news ahead of time, we'll keep you updated. But you've got to make some moves, and I think that you'll see those, and they probably won't be big surprises or big names, but it's going to get awfully hard. That's the thing. It's going to get awfully hard to make these cuts going forward because wide receiver we talked about. I mean, Keandre Hodge was your starting third receiver a year ago and played well.
Yeah.
And he's a core special teams guy, and he right now would be somebody you would have say is on the bubble. They love Sheldrick Redwine here. Richard LeCount said, hey, it's going to be real hard to slide me through to the practice squad with his performance. That room is going to be difficult to make decisions. In cornerback, you have some difficult decisions. Linebacker, you have incredibly difficult decisions.
Yep.
Now, you got 7 guys right now that could be starters for 6 spots.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle. Sheldon Day keeps making plays. And if you noticed, Sheldon Day played with the starters, got a sack on Trevor Lawrence's first drop back.
Right.
And then he came out, and he did not play. And Sheldon Day's a guy that Coach Stefanski had told me, look, he's given Joel Bitonio all he can handle in one-on-one drills. They were really impressed with what Sheldon Day had put on tape so far. He's a guy who played all 16 games with the Niners in 2019 when, guess what, Chris Kiffin was his D-line coach. Joe Woods was there in the secondary, so they know him. He played 13 snaps. Billings played 11 snaps. Gustin played 10 snaps. Those 3 guys got treated like they were the veterans on this roster.
Yeah.
Jordan Elliott.
Sheldon Day is not a name 2 weeks ago that we would have been talking about.
No. You thought he was on, he's on the outside looking in, but it would appear that, Damian Square of the veterans might be the one who's on the outside looking in at this point. There's a lot of intrigue. I mean, Malik McDowell might be the most talented defensive tackle on our roster, period. Billings is there. Malik Jackson is there. Jordan Elliott played an awful lot in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be Togi.
Marvin Wilson. I mean, that room is crowded.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a very big week for those guys. We will go around the league, some of the other big performances over the weekend as well. It's great to have football back.
Yes.
We will get to that. If you live and breathe football, something sometimes keeping your priorities straight can be a challenge. Unfortunately, the same can be true when you gamble. If you find your gambling is affecting other parts of your life, get some help, get some tips on responsible gambling at keepitfunohio.com. We'll go around the league coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at Weather Seal Home Services. Is your home in need of a facelift? New siding from WeatherSeal can give you that new home look without the hassle of moving. WeatherSeal's insulated foam siding will increase the value of your home, improve your curb appeal, and save money on your energy bills. That's huge, guys. Plus, save more with WeatherSeal's 7-year, zero-interest financing. Call my guys today for a free design consultation. Get that brand-new home look before the end of the year. Call 877-351-SEAL or visit WeatherSealHomeservices.com. As we go around the league, well, first of all, let's do this. I'm always intrigued because I remember you texting me a year ago watching Joe Burrow warm up and going, that's a dude right there. What did you make of Lawrence in his warm up?
It was just easy. It was just easy. The way the ball comes out of his hands, it's just easy, effortless. He looks very much like the real deal, and I think he's going to be a good player. You can see, held on the ball a little too long at times.
Yep.
Very rookie, not surprising. But, yeah, there's a reason he went number 1, and it was a consensus from the rip.
Yeah, I think the real challenge for him down there, with Urban will be how Urban manages himself in this, because really this season for them is not about wins and losses. It's about the growth of Trevor Lawrence. It's about making sure that he gets better each week and you're putting him in a position to succeed, and that isn't always going to manifest with W's. And I think that's going to be a hard thing for his head coach to deal with.
I was going to say, he
lost 7 games in conference at Ohio
He's
State.
Not going to be.
7.
I think everything that you
well.
said was. I don't think he really actually understood what he was getting into and what this is going to be. That's not a great football team. There's some nice talent on offense with Marvin Jones and DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. You've got James Robinson, but Etienne seemed invisible, and they didn't even know what to do with him, which was, I thought.
No, they took him in the first round, which is crazy.
And then immediately.
Seems like a panic pick.
Immediately went out and said, actually, the guy we really wanted was Kadarius Toney, and the Giants swiped him from us, which is.
Right.
When Urban said that, I said, this is the NFL. Urban obviously is a tremendous coach. His offensive innovation has shaped a lot of what we even see in the National Football League now. Yep. But I wonder, as a coach, this is something we're talking with Jim and Gibbe and Deke after the game was, and I'm curious your thoughts on this. When you get to an Ohio State or you get to Nick Saban at an Alabama or a Dabo Swinney, I'm sure at Clemson at this point,
mm-hmm.
Don't you think you lose some of your coaching fire? And what I mean by that is not for wins and losses, but you are much more of a culture builder, a recruiter. And when you're playing with guys who are significantly better than your opponents every single week, you don't have to be as good of an in-game. You're just going to win. It just is what it is. So I would imagine you lose some of that. And I think coaching, we've come to see, makes an unbelievable amount of difference in the National Football League because the talent levels are so similar around the league.
He's a one-man culture tornado.
Culture.
That's what he is. And he will instill culture in that building. The problem is if he can lose credibility by the way he handles the rest of it. And that's why I said this was the only job he was going to take in the NFL, and it was because of Lawrence. That's the reason he was going to take it. They had cap space. They had Lawrence. It was Florida, so that was appealing to him as well. It allowed him to mend some fences at the University of Florida. So all of those things in his mind, I get why he took it. He couldn't take another college job because he was fearful of damaging the Ohio State legacy, which, frankly, would have been the case. They would not have forgiven him for that. But with all of that being said, the most important thing for him was going to be his coordinator hires.
Yep.
He had to crush those.
Yep.
He had to crush his quarterback coaching hires. I don't know if the track record on Brian Schottenheimer and Darrell Bevel and Charlie Strong is the stuff that would lead you to believe he crushed those hires. I don't know if it is. And I think when you listen to his post-game press conference, it goes to what I said earlier. I'm not convinced he's ever watched a full NFL preseason game until he coached in one.
I don't disagree with you.
Because he was in a bunker.
Was stunning. Watching his press
conference
was
like more tempo, and I would have kept him in it. And I thought, boy, tempo. Ask Chip Kelly how good tempo works when you don't have talent. 3 and outs come pretty quick. You're putting your defense in a lot of tough spots. I think a big deal. We talked about this a lot. Stefanski was masterful last year in giving his defense, knowing the inabilities or the shortcomings of the defense a year ago for Joe Woods, in not putting him in a position very often where he was up against it. If you go tempo down there and you start stacking 3-and-outs against, and that's the defense you keep running out, that's going to lead to bloodbaths. And that's what happened to Chip in San Francisco. That's what started to happen to him in Philly. You can do tempo, but you better be great.
And you better have tremendous depth where you're able to move guys in and out. And that's the key. That's the key. And they don't have that depth. I mean, clearly.
No, they don't. What are the other quarterbacks did you take in? Did you see a lot of the Fields game, the Zach Wilson game, and Trey Lance as well, who had a nice ball but was otherwise kind of inconsistent in San Francisco?
I had to go to my San Francisco correspondent, not Pedro. The receivers dropped at least 3 passes for 80 yards. He should have been 8 of 14 for 200 yards. So not Pedro's pretty pleased, but then he was lamenting the fact that he was out there without the top offensive line and he was getting no chance. And I said, Dad, they didn't even play their starting offensive line for anybody. What are you talking about? So, but he liked what he said. He said, you could tell he's going to be good. That's what I think he wanted to get out of it, that he showed you the flashes. Yeah. He's got a great arm, great athletic ability. I thought Fields looked very good, nervous at first, but then settled in. I thought one of the passes I was the most impressed with, honestly, ended up being an incompletion where he put one with a guy in his receiver's hip pocket, and he put the ball exactly where it had to be, and the receiver couldn't come up with it. It was great to see, though, how many Kyle Shanahan tight end leaks, or in the case of a wide receiver leak, which they ran with the Niners, instead of it being a tight end, they just window dressed it differently. But that play still kills, man. It just absolutely kills. And that was Fields' touchdown.
They ran that at Ohio State.
Okay.
They ran that at Ohio State a lot last year with that leak out play, and he hit that the last couple of years at Ohio State quite a bit. So yeah, that goes way back. I think the situation with him is, it reminds me very similar to the situation with Baker here with Tyrod. Like, you can't lie to a room, right? The room sees it. So the only way that if you're truly going to play Dalton, you can't let him ever get hurt. You can't let Fields ever take a snap with the ones.
Yep.
You have to almost rig the system so that he doesn't. So you can't question it, because if not, the veterans know. The veterans know who can play and who can't play, and Dalton has been a really fine, nice starter in the league for a long time, but he is not Justin Fields. And Justin Fields at Ohio State went to quarterback finishing school. Guys, he didn't even take a class in person in 2 years. Every class was online. He went to Ohio State to be an NFL quarterback. That's what they prepped him for. So what are you waiting for in Chicago? Why would you not play him? What is the point in not playing him at this point?
Right.
And so I think he's more than ready to handle it. I thought he was very good in the second half as he got more comfortable. And I give credit to Zach Wilson. I thought he looked pretty effortless in what I saw of him. The ball flies easily off his hand. I thought he looked pretty good in the game as well. Mac Jones, too. I thought all the young quarterbacks looked pretty good in their first week.
Yeah, Wilson's got obviously a lot of talent. I think you can see that. Yeah. And you see why Mac Jones is a guy that New England would be interested in. Gets the ball out quickly, accurately, on time. So it's good. It's good to see quarterbacks come into this league and play at a high level. I thought if there was one thing that, you would think that, Gardner Minshew was probably trying to audition for the rest of the league, I don't think that went well. I will say this, being on the field, the guy's in incredible condition. I was pregame, he was running around. I don't even know if he had a shirt on out there. He's really in good shape. I was surprised at what an athlete Minshew looks like.
The guy on the Jacksonville broadcast was saying, kept calling him the veteran Minshew, and I'm thinking, he's in his second year, coach.
Right.
It's year 2.
Right.
He's not, he's not Chase Daniel coming in, been around for a dozen years, bouncing around. I mean, that's not the case. So, there was a little of that. What do you make of Aaron Rodgers' continued almost single-handed just dismantling of the Green Bay front office? You saw him over the weekend with the tweets about Clay Matthews, bring him back. I mean, it's everything he's doing is undermining. He said in Football Morning in America that he prepared last year as if it was last year in Green Bay. Yep. And you say, I'm sure it was.
And this clearly is. And I thought Jordan Love looked pretty good for them, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think they probably feel, they're going to be okay there, but it just doesn't feel like a situation knowing
how much damage can he do, though.
It just doesn't feel like a situation that's conducive to winning as an organization for 5 months.
No.
That's
No.
And you got to think he wants to win a Super Bowl, right? I mean, he's won one, and to be as good as he is, look, one is infinitely more than zero, right?
Right.
But I don't know. I would imagine for his legs, he wants to. It just doesn't feel like they're setting themselves up for the kind of healthy situation that you would want to try to make a real run. Our building is, and this is not me saying it, this is the people I've talked to who have come here. They think it might be the healthiest building in the National Football League in terms of just the fact that there is true synergy, true collaboration, the lack of egos. It's stunning. I finally got to meet and interview Kwesi Adofo-Mensah.
I saw that
on the pregame.
Yeah.
First time I'd ever gotten to meet him. Given obviously he came in last year with everything going on with COVID. I don't know where they find these guys, but
Ivy League.
He's this sure, but I know a lot of guys. I've worked with a lot of guys who went to Ivy League schools that aren't like them.
Yeah,
he's cut from that same cloth. Humble, clearly smart. That quiet confidence where he's humble because he knows he's comfortable with who he is. Yep. And I thought he was
impressive. Yeah,
incredibly impressive. So that's like now. There's another one of those guys in this building that's just like that.
We've been through a lot. We've trudged through a lot of mud to get to this point. Clearly, but where we are right now is so deserved for the organization, for you, the fans.
Yes.
To be in an organization that is, and you saw it. It's one weekend in the NFL preseason. Okay, so we're not going to make too big a deal out of it. But if you just looked around the league and the difference in the organizations that are all rowing in the same directions and those who aren't, it's alarming. And the amount of organizations that are trying to find their way, whether it's, like what's going on in Jacksonville and Irvin trying to find his way there, what's going on in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, there's myriad examples of this around the league. But to have an organization as calm, as solid as this one is right now, it's well-deserved. And you've been through a lot to get here, so enjoy it because it's a really unique spot that we're in right now as an organization. And so, I thought the Rodgers stuff was alarming. I thought it was like very clearly he thought he was done, that they were going to trade him. The idea that he would think that there was no clear line of communication was crazy. And it kind of played out the way that we thought. If you remember around the draft, we said, boy, I wonder if his people said, wait a second, why haven't you traded him yet? Fine, we'll leak it. And then they did. And then hoped that would force their hand. And then Green Bay's hand was not forced. And so here we are. He's back. But there's no way it goes beyond this year unless they fire that GM. There's no way.
No, I don't.
And probably the president.
Yeah,
so
it's
hard to imagine it.
Right?
No, it's absolutely crazy.
It is. It's a wild thing. And just to put a ribbon on the discussion you had about our organization right now, and you can still see teams around the league searching for the right mix. And I'll tell you, I don't think that our model is easily replicated. I really don't. I think that it makes sense, from the alignment standpoint, that's what you want. But these are special people running this organization. And I've had people tell me that there's nobody who have been around this league for a very, very long time, respected people, highly respected, who have said there is nobody in the league like Kevin Stefanski. There's not another head coach in the NFL who operates the way that Kevin Stefanski does.
Yeah. I mean, you've been around, the third coaching staff for me since I've been doing this show, far more for you. It's just different, man. It's just different, and it's obvious, and it's the way he carries. There's a professionalism about it that's very, very special, and it's obvious when you just watch a preseason game just how you go about your business.
Yes, that's of all the things that we want to see. JOK flying around, Felton looking good, DPJ continuing to look like a real number one receiver. All of those things, LeCount flashing. What the thing that just smacked you in the face is what a professional operation, and it makes you feel like, we've got this depth, but that the expectation and the coaching that they're getting is such that we could go into Pittsburgh without Joel Bitonio, and nobody even mentions Michael Dunn's name because he plays at such a high level. And last night, he was in 33 pass protections, didn't allow a single pressure. Michael Dunn. Michael Dunn would be a starting guard, and his journey is just a bonkers one. he's a starting guard in the National Football League, and we have him as a backup. And the fact that if he were to start again, the expectations would be exactly the same as they would be for Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller.
Yep.
And the coaching that they would receive would allow them to be in a position to do that. That's what's stunning. And that is. If you said to me, what's the one thing look, if we do what this team is supposed to do, we all know it's just a fact of life in the NFL. It will be very difficult to keep the roster together because when you have so many guys who deserve to get paid, there is a salary cap.
Yep.
But this coaching staff, and that's the trick, and I'll tell you, I think there are a lot of guys on this staff who will get opportunities to do more that would be perfectly happy saying no and continuing to be a part of what's happening here. I really believe that.
I think that's fair, yeah.
You can get offers that are too good to refuse, right? Everybody, that can happen. And there are a lot of guys on this staff that I think could very well end up as head coaches in the NFL. But this is special. But that's the thing. It's not just the players that you bring in. It's not just your personnel staff. It's the coaching staff that you have here and their ability to maximize the talent that is given to them and the pieces of clay and mold them that allows that depth to play better than anybody would have any right to expect them to, and for it to look as professional when Davion Davis just got here a week ago, and the guy put on a show. He was your leading receiver.
Right. Yep. Yeah. You fall in line pretty quickly when it's done right, and you can't fool the room, and there's no fooling. And when you're as smart as we are and you put your guys in position to succeed, it's rewarded with the way that we played on Saturday and how I anticipate we play this entire season. The NFL Top 100 list is starting to be unveiled. I think we're through the top 60 guys. We'll tell you where our guys are on that list coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. My great friends at Raising Cane's. School is in session, and Raising Cane's is ready to teach your taste buds a lesson. Time to feed your brain with hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast, and mouth-watering cane sauce from Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is here to help all school year long. Visit canesandcommunity.com to learn more about how Cane's can support your school with fundraisers, sponsorships, and more. Raising Cane's, one love. The NFL. Oh, actually, before we do this, I haven't shared any of the Montana travel details. So I would just give a shout out to Anthony at Delta. So a week ago Sunday, I flew out of Hopkins, and I was on the 6 a.m. flight to Minneapolis. Okay, so the boys, everyone's up 4 a.m. That's a pure joy. You love doing that. Nothing's more exciting than that in the world.
Yeah,
we are there by. Actually, it was a 6:15 flight. I take that back. 6:15. I was parked at the airport by 5:05. Okay, parked, bags, heading in. Now, I checked in the night before. So, walking in, I see a line that is probably 75 people long at the Delta counter.
It's crazy in the mornings. Yeah.
On a Sunday. And I went, oh, boy. We got a problem here. So, they started out, they had 2 people working the front, and they quickly got to 4. And it was moving along pretty good, but it's still 100 people, right? So it's crazy. So now I'm like, I can feel it. We're going to get close here. So we had a small bag that would have certainly worked as a carry-on, and then a medium-sized bag that absolutely was not a carry-on in any way, shape, or form a carry-on. So we get up to the front, and the lady says, I'm trying to check the bag. She goes, I can't check this. You're past your deadline. You're going to have to catch another flight. I said, well,
no.
6 o'clock in the morning, I'm not catching another flight. Like, I said, can you just get it to the final destination? She goes, sir, you have to fly. Okay, fine. You have to fly with your bags. I get it. So I'm scrambling in my head. Oh, then she says to me, you have to be here 2 hours before on a domestic flight. Now, I had never, ever heard that on a domestic flight. It was always an hour before on a domestic flight. International was 2. So I'd never heard 2 hours before. But do they really – I felt like saying, ma'am, are you here at 4 in the morning on a Sunday?
Is there anybody
2 hours
here?
before? Is anybody here 2 hours before on a domestic flight at 6 a.m. on a Sunday? Maybe.
I've never heard that.
I don't know.
I've never heard that.
I've never heard that before.
Never.
Could very well be true. I actually had a Delta employee, a former Delta employee, tell me that they offer what they want you to do is a lot for an hour for security and an hour to check bags. So they actually want you to give 2 hours, which I'd never heard before. Fine, my mistake. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, what do I do here? So I make a run for it. And I'm thinking, all right, once I get through security, I will buy bags, and I will just leave this as an unattended bag on the other side. I'll buy 2 carry-ons, and we'll just put the stuff in the 3 carry-on bags. So I got 5 kids. We'll put 3 carry-on bags. We'll be fine. We packed light. So this is the best I can do.
I like this.
So this is my thinking. So we have clear. So that was huge. All right. So we're sprinting. We have clear. The medium-sized bag, that is not a carry-on, goes through security. Oh, yeah. My bag goes through security. Now, we had bigger than 3 ounces of liquids in the one bag, but it all goes through. We sprint to the gate. 3 little dudes, 5:45 in the morning. We sprint to the gate. Gate agent goes, how did you get that through security? I don't know. I don't know how we did. Beats me, but here we are. God bless him. He, from there, gate checked it to final destination.
Huge.
What a job out of him.
Legend.
What a job out of him. Next level job. Anthony, what a job. Got on the flight. All was fine. I did lose years off my life. But it was a scene. I've never heard that. 2 hours before on domestic flights.
I've never heard
Crazy.
that. I try whenever, and obviously this is a quite different situation. You try not even to check bags anymore, right? I mean, that is
no.
And
God,
so,
I wouldn't.
I don't
if
even
I
know
didn't
the
have
last
the
time
kids,
that
I never would.
Did.
But they want you to, and they're trying to incentivize you to. So then make it easier.
Make it
for
easy.
Me.
Make it easy.
You know, like make it easy. If you want me to check bag, I mean, there was nobody outside, so you could check out curbside.
They didn't even have a special where you just go to
No.
the kiosk and it's just for bags. Like you've checked into your
No.
flight, you've got your just checked.
No, I was checked in.
Outrageous.
All of that pre. It was crazy. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. But
Yeah.
we did make it. So
I'm
I wanted
glad
to make
you
sure to
did
give
make
Anthony
it.
a little bit of love.
Congrats.
Oh, I mean, I just was looking at everybody behind me going, none of you are going to make it.
No, and
None
it's
of
going
you.
to be a lot of unhappy people, obviously.
Right. So now you have to rebook them, and the trickle down of that is forever.
Right. It's nonstop. It seems nonsensical. Speaking of nonsensical, little transition here. Did you see the flag thrown in the Indianapolis game, the clip that's going around?
I did.
The crackdown
and I
on
hope
taunting?
that doesn't – I hope that – my hope is that they are overreacting and will pull back when we get to the regular season. But I thought it was just nonsense.
The guy carried 11 people, 10 yards. I hadn't heard of that guy before. So my guess is he's trying to make an impression and make the team.
Yeah.
He should be fired up about that. This is a very physical, very violent, very dangerous game that must be played with some emotion. Anytime they're against the taunting, I don't like it. If you don't like the taunt that's coming your way, don't let them do it. But I mean, as long as that wasn't disrespect. That was just raw emotion. Like, he was fired up to throw the flag there. I'm hoping the reaction that's getting from NFL players, current, past, commentators, all of it is enough to make them say, okay, maybe we got this wrong. Let's
rethink it.
This isn't the spirit of the rule or the game.
No, I would agree. And my hunch is that they will, because they have to the regular season to kind of test the rule out. So my hunch is that they will. We teased the top 100 players as voted on by the players. Two of our guys mentioned so far, Baker at 71, Jarvis Landry at 94. In terms of what Browns end up in the top 40, I mean, obviously Chubb, Miles are locks as being in the top. Would we only have – what about all of our offensive linemen? None of them?
I mean, I would have to think. You don't think Bitonio or Teller or –
I do, but I don't know how they could. I mean, I'm looking. We're already in the top 40, and we've only had Baker and Landry. Like, Kareem Hunt's not a top 100 player in the league?
Of course he is.
Denzel Ward?
You would think so. You know, Nick Chubb's going to be there. Miles is going to be there.
Chubb and Miles locks. But we're already to 40. Who else on our team could you put in there?
Nobody from our offensive line is there. It is absolutely bonkers. It's bad. Listen, Jarvis Landry, I even think his ranking is disrespectful. Jarvis Landry is so much more than just the numbers. That is the guy. That's the man.
Right. But I just don't know how else. I'm guessing you're just going to have the two, because I think some of those other guys should have been mentioned between here and there.
Yes. By the way, I was just told that was Benny Lemay, who was actually with us last year in training camp.
Oh, that's right.
Benny Lemay, who was an undrafted free agent running back a year ago. Good for him. Good for you, Benny. I want to say he went to Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken, the school of Larry Ogunjobi. And now Romeo McKnight, who is currently on our roster, finished his collegiate career at Charlotte.
What an incredible job out of you.
Yeah.
Just little nuggets. Just a man full of nuggets. That's how you roll, my friend. Still so much more to come. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Iverson. A little bit of Iverson for me as well in this.
Somebody on Twitter said that, hey, this new guy that you're working with on Browns Daily sounds cool. And I said, I think, I'm considering following him on social.
Oh, don't do that. You can't do that. Yeah. There's no winners there. I can tell you that